Welcome to the Vault Excel, and thank you for joining me.
This half hour, a heartbreaking end to the months-long search for New Braunfels College student Caleb Harris.
Overnight, Corpus Police confirmed remains found last month likely belonged to Harris. We've been tracking his disappearance ever since he vanished from his off-campus apartment in March, and now we know a forensic team helped make that identification.
This is incredibly sad, as everyone had hoped for a different outcome. Hence, 5 Sarah Duran is joining us now with reaction from Caleb's family. But first, I understand we're learning more from the investigators, Sarah.
Yes, Sarah. So there are still a lot of questions about what actually happened to Caleb. Corpus Christi police have not said how these remains ended up in a wastewater well. That's where city workers found the body last month, and not far from where the college student vanished from in March. Now, due to the advanced state of decomposition they were found in, the local medical examiner down there could not identify the remains. They had to be sent to a very special lab at the University of North Texas, along with DNA samples from Caleb's parents. According to police, the results came back as a likely match, and they will now be returned to the Oasis County Medical Examiner's office for a final autopsy report. Like you said, Sarah, this is devastating news for the Harris family and those who have searched extensively for Caleb. His mother, Becky Harris, posted this on Facebook overnight. She said, quote, "We have heavy hearts as we learn the positive identification of our sweet Caleb. We will grieve our son, but we have peace knowing he is with our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ." We have also reached out to his father, Randy, but have not been back. Although the remains have been identified at this point, police say the investigation remains open. They are urging anyone with information to contact their criminal investigation division or Crime Stoppers. In the studio, Sarah Duran, Kings 5.
Okay, so likely match. DNA testing. Still going to have an autopsy done by the medical examiner, and the investigation is still open. I assume that once the medical examiner comes back with his or her findings, then there will be a finale, hopefully, to cause of death, manner of death. That's said information. We're going to now hear from the chief of police, who gives some very interesting details, or his commentary when he says enough of remains. So that's going to lead people to wonder, what do you mean by that? Most people will use deduction that what? It's partial, or what you could test. So people are going to be curious to the state of the body that was brought in or recovered from the wastewater, because I am quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Curious to what that means exactly. Enough of the remains tested. And I always say that in interviews, people need to ask, definitive questions, because when you leave that open, it's open for interpretation. So enough of the remains. I'll let you hear this and you can bring forward your own perception of what is being said. 3 News is the source. Chief Todd Green talks about Caleb Harris. Thank you for your time. 1 second, everyone. I'm going to have to play it on another device because their audio is too low. Hope everyone is well. Raining here in the high 10. One second, everybody. Trying to get it together. Hello, Sky. How are you? Thanks for joining me. Once again, 3 News is the source.
Thank you again for speaking with us on this matter. With the preliminary autopsy showing no obvious signs of homicide, and since the DNA report has come back with most likely match, is this case over?
No, it's not over. It's still an open investigation on our part. At this point, we're waiting for the remains to be returned to the medical examiner and for him to issue his final autopsy report.
At one point in the investigation, y'all were looking at whether or not foul play may have been involved. Is that still the case?
We have not been able to prove one way or the other whether foul play was involved, but we have exhausted a tremendous amount of investigative effort and time. We followed up on a tremendous amount of leads in the area.
I appreciate that.
And our investigation at this point is pretty close to being concluded as far as that goes.
There were, and I'm looking over, investigators executed over 50 digital search warrants, analyzed over 1,500 gigabyte of data. Has that information been processed, and has that pointed to anything?
It has been processed. It did lead us to different individuals that we identified that were in that area at roughly that time of that evening. Mm-hmm. So what we had early on, we mentioned that we went out shortly after he went missing, and we scoured the area looking for surveillance video. Unfortunately, because it was so foggy that night, a lot of the video was very poor quality. We did notice several vehicles moving through the area, moving up and down Ennis Jocelyn in the immediate area that evening. But because the video was so poor, we couldn't get license plates off the vehicles. In most cases, it was really hard to determine a make and a model, other than maybe a blue 4-door or a white 2-door, or a pickup truck. But that's where all the effort and the time and the investigation went in as far as the digital search warrants. So what we did is our investigators began issuing search warrants for cell tower data, all the cell towers in the area. We did gosh, I can't think of the name of it now. Anyway, we did cell tower dumps. We used that information to identify what we believed were the drivers of these vehicles moving through the area. We did identify them, and we interviewed them, and we were at the point when the remains were found in the lift station. We had pretty much gotten to the end of that investigation, and it hadn't bore the fruit that we thought it would. Our initial suspicion was that Caleb got in a vehicle with somebody and left the area, and that was kind of what we were acting on. That was our where we were going with the investigation. But once we got all that information back, we identified these individuals that were in the area. We went out, our investigators interviewed them, and we were, based on the investigation, we were able to determine that they had no connection to Caleb. We went through his digital data, through his laptop, through his social media. We even were able to clone his phone as well. We never did find his cell phone, but what our investigators did, our forensic computer people who did a tremendous job, they basically cloned his phone, which is something that was quite unusual. And still, they were unable to establish any connection between Caleb and any of the people that had gone through that area at that time, at that night.
Of course, we were talking earlier, but the big question is how did Caleb end up at the wastewater lift station? And that's a question that we might not ever know.
That's certainly a possibility. It's we don't know for beyond any doubt of how that happened or what actually happened to him. We haven't been able to find any evidence that clearly suggests that he was met with foul play, that there was a homicide involved. because of the state of the remains, it was difficult to. We couldn't even make the medical examiner here couldn't make an identification and had to send it off to the University of North Texas for DNA analysis. But what has been learned was there's no obvious signs of trauma to what remains are available. There's no gunshot wounds, there's no obvious knife wounds or hatchet wounds or anything like that that would tell us, yes, he was murdered. At the same time, there's nothing, because there wasn't enough of the remains there, we can't say beyond a doubt that he wasn't murdered.
If this was
Very interesting information. There wasn't
I'm Shane
enough
Jackson,
of the
proud
remains.
East Tennessee native, and I'm running
That's
to represent
very
the 4th
interesting
District of Knox
information there.
County Commission.
Sorry about that. There wasn't enough. Very scary. So what did you see of him? What was actually visible of these remains? Very scary information.
sorry about that. If this was somehow an accident, is there still an investigation that goes into how it happened or how he ended up there at the lift station, or if it's determined to be an accident?
Well, and like I said, we're continuing. The investigation's not over, but at this point, we don't have any clear evidence of exactly how he ended up in that lift station. We can say that it is a very secure facility there. There's a chain link fence around the facility. It's locked with a padlock. For you to get into that facility, you have to pass through that gate. Once you get into that, inside the gate, there's another lock on the building, and the actual wet well where the remains were found is covered with a steel grate that also has a padlock on it. So it wouldn't be easy for anybody to intentionally dispose of the remains in that manner.
You were talking about how the investigation is almost completed. What are the next steps?
Right now, the number one step is to wait and see what the medical examiner rules. He hasn't made a final ruling yet. We met with him earlier today and kind of shared everything that we have learned, all our information, and we'll wait to see what he rules on this. The manner of death and the cause of death.
This was one of those investigations
Manner
where
and cause.
Caleb was not. People were invested. People were impacted by what happened because it's. I think mostly because we don't know what happened to Caleb, and so what is your message, of course, to the countless number of people who helped with the searches that happened, and people who just prayed for his family. What would your message be to the community tonight? Our number one, our hearts and thoughts and prayers go out to the family. This is not, a very tragic ending to it. It's not the ending that we had hoped for. Certainly wasn't the ending the family hoped for. So they're an incredible family. Mr. Harris and his family are incredibly strong, have a very strong faith. And I think that shone through from the very beginning. But as far as the volunteers, I've never seen anything like it. Like I said, it really makes me proud of the community that I serve, that we have that type of community, that people are willing to go out there and walk through the heavy brush and the mud and the drainage ditches and all over, the people that searched, the people that made donations, food and drinks for the searchers, the people that prayed, the people that had prayer vigils. Just, it's an incredible reflection on our community. And then, of course, the college, the volunteers out there, and then, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Harris's community up in Braunfels. It's just
It's sad to see what happened, but if there's anything positive that comes out of it, is just the fact how many people, like you said, were very invested in it. People that really, I'm sure, are taking it very hard, the outcome, beyond the family. And hopefully they'll be able to support the family and continue that as the days go by.
I believe you answered all of my questions there. Mm-hmm. Has the family, I know there's probably been some communication with the family. Mm-hmm. Have they asked for the investigation to continue? It's your loved one, I'm sure. They want to see more.
Sure.
Results or more. It's hard to accept a conclusion.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it still is an open investigation, so we haven't closed it. We meet with Mr. Harris pretty much on a weekly basis. He comes by and we share with him as much as we can. Now that we're at the point we're able to share more with him. What we have done. Certainly, yeah. They want finality. So.
I believe that's all I have for you. Is there anything else that you feel is important to get out? Since we're here, and anything else that the public needs to be aware of?
This came up early on. We talked about it. There's people that say, well, there's a huge number of missing people around here, and that there's a chance. People like to throw the word serial killer around and things like that. We've looked at the other cases early on. We immediately looked at all the other open missing person cases that we had, and pretty quickly we determined there's no connection. There's no real commonality. Each one of them had some very unique circumstances involved, and Caleb's disappearance was totally different than most of the missing person cases that we work. Like I said, generally a lot of times people have a history of disappearing, or they have a history of mental illness or drug abuse or a combination of, and those people, it's not surprising when they turn up missing. With Caleb, it was extremely rare. So I guess the message is, we don't have there's nothing that we're connecting this one to. And like I said, at this point, there's nothing that definitively says that it was a foul play.
I just got a couple more questions.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate this. When police searched, were there any manhole covers in manholes in nearby fields that did not have their covers on?
So when we initially conducted the initial search, the day within the immediate days following the search, we searched that entire area around the apartment complex, all those open fields, all around in the brush, all the way out to the Oso Preserve, up and down. There was no report of any missing manhole covers or missing manholes in that area. Our investigators, or the search team, actually opened all the drainage manhole covers all the way from SPID on Ennis Jocelyn, all the way from SPID back to Holly. They did not open the sewage manholes. But like I said, in the initial couple of days following, there was no reports. Nobody reported a missing manhole or open manhole cover or anything like that. On April 17th, we got a tip through, and I don't know if it came in through Crime Stoppers or the tip line. We got a tip that a woman had been out there in that field that had been searched very thoroughly, the field right across from the apartment complex, and had found an open manhole. Our investigators went out there the following day on April 18th, and they did find that there was a open manhole cover. It wasn't just the cover, it actually the entire top of the manhole had been knocked off.
Wow.
They looked into the manhole, which is about 18 feet deep. At the time, it was somewhat full of water. So they reached out to the wastewater department, who happened to be in the area, fortunately for us. But they reached out to some wastewater workers, and they had them go over to the lift station at Perry Place, and they actually activated the pump over there, which brought down the level of the water in that manhole. So the investigators searched it the best they could at that time and didn't see anything. They also went to the lift station itself and looked in that wet well to see if they could see anything, and they didn't observe anything at that time. So that was April 18th.
Do y'all think Tropical Storm Alberto had any role in, of course, the discovery of the remains?
That is a possibility. And I'm not an expert in wastewater management, but what they told us, though, is even though it's wastewater, this is the sewage system. Even though that's what it's designed for, they did say that when we have really, really heavy rains, rainwater will infiltrate into the system. So there is a certain amount of rainwater that will get into the system and increase the flow above and beyond what the normal flow would be. So that is a possibility that because of those rains, and we had some heavy rains, Tropical Storm Alberto, the weekend before the body was found, there is that possibility. We don't know for a fact, we don't know for certain, but that is something that they said could be a possibility.
Last question for you. When was the last time you were able to speak with the Harris family? You said you've been in contact or in touch, and then do they still believe this was a homicide?
Well, that's a question you'd have to ask them. The last time I spoke to Mr. Harris is we met with him on Friday. And that's the last time I've spoken to him directly. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For answering those questions. It helps, of course, shed some light on a lot of that. So
All right, everybody. News 3 is the source. Let's recap what was said. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Vault Excel. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeganG129 Cash App. Stickers and chats are always welcome to the live stream. Woo, got a little bit to cover here. So, a lot was done pertaining to phone data searches, cell phone dumps, chasing cars, individuals in the area, foggy, couldn't make out plates. But they found people that they spoke to, later confirmed they had nothing to do with Caleb Harris. No gunshot stabbing to the body visible of the remains. So what remains did you have? What floated up exactly? Not to be, barbaric, but when you speak of enough, that leads people to believe you didn't have a whole body. So are we talking about a whole body that was deteriorated because it was human, in the wastewater, or partial body part? What actually floated up? Let's leave it at that. Did he fall into a manhole? I also question, why would a person walk around without any shoes on outside? Because, germs and things. It's a southern state. People do tend to go bare feet in southern places, jurisdictions, versus people that live up in major cities. So where did he venture off? Where did he go? Why was he even outside late without shoes on? Didn't take a wallet, didn't take anything. Phone still never been recovered. It's very interesting. Their thought process, law enforcement, is that he got into someone's car, but they later realized, I guess with their technology, he didn't get into somebody's car. But how can you prove that? Because if a person left their phone behind, let's say they left their phone behind, then you wouldn't be able to prove that they got in a car, got pushed in the car, kidnapped. How would you be able to know? Especially if you don't have any, video surveillance to say either way. Once again, individuals were ID'd that were in the general area, and they have found them not to have any connection to Caleb. Medical examiner could not make a positive ID of a body at the time when the body surfaced, so they had to send the body off. Now we're waiting to hear from the medical examiner for manner and cause of death. No signs of trauma to say that he was murdered. Okay? Once again, it wasn't enough to say he wasn't murder or foul play. Also, no evidence of how he got into the lift station. He discusses the state of the building. It was a secure facility where the wet station is. Padlock building. The wet well itself is padlocked, not easy to intentionally dispose a body into it. He also talks about the incredible family that Caleb has. Also, the community that came out to search, going through high brush, wetlands to search for this young man. The people who made food, cooked for the individuals who searched. The donations that came in, basically saying they have a strong and wonderful community. He met with the family weekly, and I'd like to touch on that. Even though they didn't have much information to give, and or possibly, keeping certain things to themselves until you know for sure, that you don't want to get a person hyped up, when you start meeting with them and telling them things. I find that very welcoming because we hear so many terrible stories of people going missing and their families, going to the police station and calling the detectives. And we hear all these horrible conversations of how the police detectives responded to them, didn't respond, won't tell them certain things. As we know in an investigation, they can't tell you everything. But this is one situation where we have never heard anything negative from the parents pertaining to law enforcement. They represented themselves as very, down-to-earth people on the news. As I was watching an interview with them last night that I had seen before, and it was sad watching them because they really look like, ducks out of water talking to the camera people, because I guess they're just, baffled that they're even in that situation to be talking about their loved one. But you could still see that they are genuine people, concerned. The sister was talking about her relationship with her brother, that they're best friends. His friends are her brothers. So you could see the warmth in the parents and the sisters' conversations about Caleb. You can see that they have never said anything negative about the police department. I'm glad that they had a good rapport. As far as I know, they've had a good rapport. And that's what you want to hear when people are missing, or even when the people are found deceased and it's foul circumstances or unknown circumstances. You want to hear that people have a good rapport, or that they feel they have a good rapport with the police. You also want to hear that from the police, that yes, we talk to them, they call us, we answer, we respond in a diplomatic, civil fashion. What's horrible is when you hear the negative. And that all depends, and this is just the truth, that all depends on the people representing the missing and the law enforcement's attitude. Because all it takes is for one person to get crunk and have a nasty disposition, either be a detective, state police, FBI, whoever, and or family member. And naturally, you can't tell a person how to feel when someone is missing and or has been found deceased, because you're not in their shoes. And people, we do judge people when they act out and start talking crazy, acting crazy. My thing is, I only have a problem with a relative, friend. It's when they're talking in circles. They don't make sense when they speak, or they act like they don't care. And with this case, they show that they care. So I applaud the Harris family for their civil attitude and disposition, talking to the news, not dealing with the rhetoric and the gossip and the storytelling and the misinformation, just like that one guy, Mr. Hughes, who did commentary about a phone being found, and now we hear the phone hasn't been found. So he was going off of whatever information he got. But now you see in this recent conversation with the chief, the phone has not been located. And I would assume that if they found a phone belonging to Caleb Harris, they would gladly tell us at this point. But they have not. Thank you, Connie. Thank you so much. So you this is why I always tell people why you cannot jump on all that he said, she said stuff. And I applaud the Harris family immensely because they did not get involved in the gossip. They did not run to YouTube. They did not jump on Facebook arguing with people, bickering with those people. As far as we know, not setting up any fake accounts to bicker and banter, because that's not how civilized people act when someone's missing. But that's the whole point. Everybody does not behave the same. And I'm very proud of these people. I really am. I applaud the dignity that they have exhibited for their son. The parents and the sister. They stood steadfast in the gap for their child, and they behaved in a diplomatic fashion, and they did not waver, falter due to social media hype. Because it's easy to get yourself immersed into the he said and the she said, and then you're jumping over here and you're talking over here on this station, and then you're coming to YouTube and you're doing all that, TikTok, whatever. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. And I'm very proud of them for how they have conducted themselves. What else do I have? Missing people. The reporter asked about missing people and conversations from the public about a serial killer. So how many people do they have missing from their county, city? So far, the chief says they haven't found any link to any missing persons that mimic this case pertaining to Caleb Harris. He says usually these cases involve drug, mental issues, which would be no surprise, I guess, that's why they're missing. Well, I'm going to say this pertaining to that comment. I understand that comment to some degree, but the thing about giving an opinion about this type of situation as far as drug and mental issues is that some people might get offended by that comment to say, well, what are you saying? That because a person is on drugs and or has mental issues, that would be a reason they would go missing. See, everybody is not the same. There are people who are actually on drugs. There are people who actually have mental problems, but they do call their mother and their father or their brother and their sister or their friend. So you can't necessarily say because somebody has a mental issue or they're known to be on drugs or even homeless, they don't keep up with their family members. There are many people who will tell you they have a brother, sister, cousin, nephew who's on drugs, schizophrenic, bipolar, but they still have contact with them. And then maybe that instance that they don't hear from them, and so now they're worried and they're concerned. So you have to be very careful how you word things, but I get what he's saying. I guess he's alluding to the fact that a lot of the people who possibly are missing, that maybe they had some mental issues and or, drug issues. And maybe they didn't keep in contact, so you wouldn't know where they were because maybe they didn't keep in contact with their family. I don't know. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I'm just saying you have to be very careful how you word things because there's always that assumption for people who are mentally ill and or on drugs that they don't keep in contact with a family member or friend. That's not true. You can't speak for everybody. Okay, it's just like even with homeless people. There are homeless people who actually carry phones. They keep a phone charger. They try to keep it charged, and they may check in with their mother or sister once a week or a relative or friend, and then time may go by to where nobody hears from them, and the person is concerned. They don't know, and they could tell, law enforcement, well, I know they're homeless and they're out there in the street, but I usually hear from him on Wednesday or Thursday. So that's why I'm saying everybody's situation is not the same. Manhole covers. One was found in the grassy area field across from the apartment complex. A tip came in April 17th. A woman found one open, so that's dangerous. She found it. She could have fallen in. Well, they checked that place, that hole. It did have a cover off. It was filled with water, 18 feet deep. So they went and checked the Perry Place station to get the water down, and they didn't see anything. And then they went over to the other lift station, the main station, on April 18th and didn't find anything suspicious in nature. The reporter also talks about rainwater, I guess, getting inside. So the chief says 1 week beforehand, they did have heavy rain, and that could have played a factor in maybe not disclosing a human body down in the system. And the reporter also asks about the family's opinion of what they think happened to Caleb, and he said he would have to ask the family their opinion. Now, the question still remains, what happened and how did he get in there? Because people are going to question that. Because if you're going to tell us that the station itself across the street stayed locked, padlocked, fenced in, building locked, fence locked, padlocked, waste lift, we have a problem there. Then that means he didn't enter through that domain. And if they have security cameras, if someone was up to nefarious business, they would be risking what? Being spotted, taking the body in and dumping the body in a hole. It's very odd. So now we go back to the field. Did he walk through the field bored and fell in? Or walk somewhere near the property or away from the property from where he lived and fell into a hole? And I would assume a manhole would be on concrete, but they're saying that this was a manhole also in the field. So that means manholes are what? In fields and on concrete. It's very strange information. I don't know how he got in there, but I know one thing. When I was doing research recently and I showed you all, was playing you all content and I shared it on my community page, there's not many ways you can get your tail down in there. It starts from your house through the drain, your sink, which we know he didn't enter that way. And then we have this manhole business and then the direct lift station itself. There's not many ways to get in there. And that's where we have the problem in trying to figure out how Caleb got inside. I don't know what to say. Let's see. KENS5 San Antonio source is my next source pertaining to Caleb Harris. Questions remain after remains are identified as missing college student Caleb Harris in Texas. Lord have mercy, what a story.
Our other top story at 6, the cause of college student Caleb Harris's death will be difficult to determine, according to Corpus Christi police. The New Braunfels native was attending school in Corpus Christi when he disappeared. Police confirmed the remains found last month are Caleb's. KENS 5's Mike Jimenez spoke with the Corpus Christi Police Department today about the investigation.
The results of a DNA test confirming the worst. The body of Caleb Harris, who had been missing for months in Corpus Christi, found in a wastewater well.
Through the lens of the criminal justice system, it provides new probabilities, and that's obviously more probability than any other person on the planet several times over.
Corpus Christi Police Deputy Chief Billy Breedlove speaking today about the investigation, which remains active. Not far from his apartment. Now one of the biggest questions remaining is how did he get there?
Still probably the part of the investigation that will remain under investigation.
Police say on April 18th, they did receive a tip about a manhole cover missing in a farm field 600 feet away from Caleb's apartment. After draining the well, nothing was found. But that would change in late June when there was a jam in the well's lift pump, believed to be caused by a human bone.
The likely scenario was that those remains were in a 15-inch.
Let's hear that again.
When there was a jam in the well's lift pump, believed to be caused by a human bone.
The likely scenario was that those remains were in a 15-inch sewage pipe, and the rain from Tropical Storm Alberto, as it was just a couple of days before that discovery, pushed those remains through the system and ended up in that location.
Investigators still don't have a cause or manner of death, and police say that's likely to remain undetermined. And the lack of signs of foul play could be that the body was just too decomposed.
It was pretty much just skeletal remains for the most part.
Police say the case will remain active, but some answers may never come for the Harris family. Mike Jimenez.
Well, more descriptive information. Whew, wow, that's a lot to digest. So a bone got possibly caused some type of flow passage problem. He was skeletal, what they retrieved of him. I guess somewhere in my mind, I just, sometimes it's hard to digest information. So I guess when they first talked, mentioned that, remains were found, I guess in my head, I was still thinking that it would have been a whole body. I didn't think in my head that it wouldn't be, I don't know, I guess I was still thinking that maybe skin was attached because it's water, but then I also have to think about what's in the waste. I just really wasn't thinking, I guess. Waste naturally would eat away at anything of the flesh. So sometimes you just don't really, things don't register in your head at the time when you're getting information. So that didn't, I don't know why, I didn't think about that. Of course, eventually I did. I thought, well, wait a minute, you're in waste. So naturally the waste would eat away at the flesh because we know that, a body can stay in water, seem maybe be more preserved in water, cold water, but a waste would be totally different because it's human waste, so on and so forth. Wow, that's a lot to digest. And naturally, he also mentioned that too, the chief, that one of the wells or manholes they opened had waste in it. Naturally, they weren't going to go crawl down in there because they're not prepared for that. Police officer or detective, so they have to get somebody who's sanitation worker. They would have to do that if it meant going down or using some type of tool to put down in there to see what was down in that hole. So what are we saying? Or what are they saying? Because I don't know where this is going. So what happened? He wandered off in the field. So then you got to ask yourself once again, you're wandering off with no shoes on. Why? Why are you out late wandering around? Once again, people are grown. They're entitled to go where they want. If they want to sit out on their balcony late, if they want to smoke a cigarette outside on the stoop, the stairs, sit on their car, sit in their car, take a walk. Some people like to wander when they're upset or when things are on their mind. So now we have to ask ourselves, what really happened that night? There's one thing we've learned about nefarious business. People just don't tell the truth. People do not tell the truth that somebody said something to somebody, pissed somebody off, they had words, because they don't want to be linked to a missing person and or foul play if indeed they're involved, or be labeled the cause of the person walking off, wandering off, running off. Nobody wants to be labeled, shit stir or arguing with somebody because they know then attention will be put on them. Like, well, did you do something? Did you say something? Did you push them? Did you shove them? Did you have a fight? Did you all take the body somewhere and dump it? See, nobody wants to get into all that. We've learned this with true crime. And I'm not here to say that his friends or associates did anything to him. What I'm saying is you have to know, one, the temperament of the person missing. That's number one. You have to know the mindset of the person missing. You have to know what actually took place that night, because ordering food and all that, that's not telling me nothing. That's not telling me nothing about the people in the apartment. That's not telling me anything about who Caleb is. That's not telling me anything about the person that dropped off the food. That's not telling me anything about the neighbors. That's not telling me anything about who came through the apartment complex looking for Peter, Joe Blow. So you don't know. So we will wait to hear what the medical examiner has to say as far as what they were able to discover, which now we know were bones. So that's, and it's not saying that bones retrieved have not given a rendering to cause and manner of death, because they're going to check everything with bone marrow, all that, depending on how many bones they were able to recover. So you got to ask all those questions too. What exactly did they recover? How much of him did they recover? Did they pull up a whole human skeletonized or partial bones? I don't know. But we do hear this gentleman saying a bone got, stuck into some type of pipe and obstruct the flow of business. Woo, this is horrible. Hello, Akira. Thank you for joining me. Hello, everybody. Hello, Lane. Flora, Sky, Lisa, Gigi, Skylar. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. What a story. Wow. It's sad to me because he's a young person. He had his whole life ahead of him. We haven't heard anything nefarious about his disposition, his attitude, any illegal wranglings with people, persons, criminal records, any fights or anything. He seemed like just a regular kid. He seemed to like fishing. They have pictures of him holding up a fish or two in different photographs. So he obviously liked wildlife. And you're looking at the pictures and you're trying to put together this person, who he is, where he's from, what happened. He just walked out one day without shoes on, and then poof, he's gone. And what's scary is the obvious, where he was found. And now I have to ask that question. You say you have found bones. How long was he in that lift station? How did he get to the lift station? From whence did he come from? And how long was he down there in that particular lift station? Those are my questions. How did he get in there? What day did he get in there? How long was he in the actual lift station? Because I'm assuming this is a flow of content to get to the lift station. So how long had he been submerged down there? And what's even more baffling is him being in the wastewaters, and then he's in the lift station right across the road from the apartment complex. So that's even more creepy. So people are going to use deduction. Well, he was put into the lift station or fell into a manhole or some type of opening close to the apartment, allegedly. So then you got to ask that question. Where are other holes, entries that he could get in that aren't near the apartment complex that would flow wastewater over to that lift station? So now we've got kind of like a double-edged sword. Are there other outside openings that aren't right near the apartment that he could have entered into, and it would have pushed his remains over into that lift station? Those are my questions. Wow, 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 wow. Prayers to the Harris family. God have mercy. I will definitely be praying for them, because they do seem like nice Christian people. And like I said, they have contained themselves so diplomatically pertaining to their loved one. And I always said that they are the exemplary of what you should want to see on TV when it comes to a missing person, missing people. And somebody who ever has to come in contact with law enforcement, these are the people you want to look to as an example of how you should behave. And as I said, everybody's not the same. Everybody don't act the same, but they are exemplary to me. And I commend this family highly for their respectful demeanor in front of the news. Now, it's not to say that, out of sight, they ain't showing out, cussing and acting a fool at home, but they can do that because that's their child. That's what people don't understand about, having missing children and missing people. That's a lot to digest, to be talking to somebody one day and now you don't hear from them. You don't know where they're at. And then you got to sit in front of a news camera and act civilized without having to show out and fuss and cuss and fall out on the floor. It's a lot, because a lot of people they cannot contain themselves. And you can't get mad at a person for wilding out, because that's their child. That's their family member. They want to know where they are. And I feel bad for anybody with a missing child, missing person. It's a terrible, it's terrible. And now that he's been discovered, likely the remains DNA match those of Caleb versus his family. So they've made peace, I'm hoping, or coming to make peace with the fact that this is their child. And when I get an update pertaining to any more information, I will bring you that information. Oh, man. What a story. Golly. Whew. I'm out of breath just talking about that. That's just too depressing for me. Too depressing. He seemed like a nice kid. Haven't heard anything, like I said, negative about him. Wow. Wow. It's a lot to deal with. Your child missing. Hopefully, we'll get more answers from the medical examiner. We will see. Next subject. Very controversial subject. Thomas Crooks. The non-target motive. What do his parents know? His mindset. We're going to take a dive into the belly of the beast to who Thomas Crooks was as a human being. there's some information that's coming out from his guidance counselor that I don't agree with, because the one thing I keep telling people, I say this all the time during my live streams pertaining to people in general, whether it's pertaining to true crime or not, you don't know people. You do not know people. So you cannot say what is and what ain't come when it pertaining to people, because how one person acts with you is not how they act with somebody else. What somebody told you is not what they told somebody else. A person could confide in you a secret, but they didn't tell their mother or the father or their friends or their auntie or their grandmother. I think everybody knows this, because it's not for everybody to know your inner thoughts. So far, they don't really have a motive, FBI, pertaining to Thomas Crooks. And I have deducted that he didn't have a target. He didn't have a target per se, due to the searches they have come up with, if they are legitimate, because some people are questioning that as well. You know, people question everything. Because right now, everything is all over the place pertaining to this investigation. But I don't think he had a target. I think he was somebody looking for validation in life, and he chose to exact mass destruction, chaos, in order to get that validation. And once again, seeking validation starts from being a child on up. When people do crazy, outlandish, outrageous things, behavior, you have to go into the belly of the beast to ask yourself why. Where does that come from? Well, 9 times out of 10, it starts in childhood, adolescence. We get information that he was being bullied, then somebody else says he wasn't bullied. Now we have a guidance counselor saying the same, that he wasn't. I'd like to know, sir, how would you know what was going on with Thomas Crooks? Yeah, I'm calling you out on this one, because during this interview, you had to look him up. So that means he wasn't that memorable. That's my opinion. He couldn't have been that memorable if you had to go look him up and look in your notes. And if you dealt with him for 2 years, you had to go look him up when you heard the name on the news. There's weird conversations here. This is why I always say too about dealing with people who give commentary. You have to be very careful the information you listen to, because you really don't know what's the truth when it comes to people giving their opinion. And we've learned about clout chasers. People will get on the news and say anything just to be heard, to be seen. And then you start looking at them like, well, hell, you're no different than this person. You're similar to this person we're talking about, because you see that all the time. You got to decide what's the truth and what's not the truth. And right now we're hearing so much differences of what happened. We're going from 1 minute to 20 minutes of people seeing the man on the roof. It's like it's all over the place. You let him in, but you were supposed to watch him. Then you try to say, well, somebody else is supposed to watch him. So now that makes no sense. That makes no sense to me. Let somebody inside of a place and then expect somebody else to watch them. That's foolish. Let's get down to business pertaining to this nonsense, because God knows it's a lot. In this live stream, we're going to talk about his mindset. We're going to talk about him hiding the weapon. We're going to talk about what does his parents know. We're also going to talk about his searches for depressive disorders and how it came to be. That he exacted this crime. Welcome to the Vault XL. CBS Pittsburgh is the source.
Coming in about the Trump rally gunman, 20-year-old Thomas Crooks. The FBI says it continues to investigate whether he was a politically motivated, homegrown violent extremist. In the last several months, Crooks received multiple packages, some marked as possibly containing hazardous material. And a former classmate tells the New York Times Crooks was an easy target for bullies in school and was nicknamed the school shooter at Bethel Park High School because of his look. Tonight we're hearing from Crooks' former high school guidance counselor.
KK's Mamie Bai is live in the newsroom. And Mamie, you spoke to that guidance counselor, and he says he knew Crooks well.
That's right, I did. Jim Knapp, I spoke with him. He is on vacation, but he agreed to speak with us. He tells me that he was Crooks' guidance counselor for 2 years while Crooks was at the high school. He tells me that he doesn't believe there was any bullying that was happening, not any that he saw himself. Now, Jim Knapp is the former guidance counselor of Thomas Crooks, the Bethel Park native now being referred to as the would-be Trump assassin. The 20-year-old opened fire with an AR-style rifle from the roof of a building outside of the security perimeter of the Trump rally Saturday in Butler. Knapp knew him well. Crooks attended Bethel Park High School. During his sophomore year, he started seeing Knapp. Knapp describes him as being intelligent and quiet. He tells me it took a while for it to register on Saturday when he heard that his former student was involved in this incident on Saturday.
So I actually had to go back and look up some pictures that I was able to keep from when I was a guidance counselor and some notes that I took myself. And therefore, I was able to look at those notes and look at his picture. And therefore, started all come back. The recollection all came back. And when I recognized who it was and what happened, it just made my stomach sink and my...
Knapp retired in 2022, the same year Crooks graduated from Bethel Park High School. Now, Knapp tells me to note, he wants people to understand that he doesn't believe there was any bullying going on. He tells me that actually during Crooks' senior year, he didn't miss any days except for just one. And so he says if there was any bullying going on, he certainly would have probably missed 4 days. Reporting live from the KDK TV News.
Miss more days.
KDK TV News.
I don't know if I agree with that. See, everything is an assumption pertaining to people. You say you don't think he was teased or bullied from what you saw. But what you're supposed to say is, I don't have knowledge of him being teased. He never told me in any counseling sessions that he was teased. And I don't have information that he was teased. That's what you're supposed to say. The panel is open if you have commentary pertaining to Caleb Harris and Thomas Crooks. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the Vault XL. You can't say he wasn't teased or was teased because we got to ask ourselves, one, what was in your notes that you had to go look him up, which shows me he wasn't memorable to you. You saw the name on the news and then you started thinking, where do I know that name from? Oh, I think I had him as a kid. Let me go look at my notes. So he wasn't that memorable, just keeping it real. But you can't say he wasn't teased because he didn't miss a lot of days of school. Come on. Kids go to school teased every day. It's their choice if they decide to skip school, miss school. Parents find out. And then it's up to the parents to decide if they want to send their kid back and or talk to their child about returning back to school. So everybody's situation is different who's being teased. First of all, we don't even know if his parents knew he was teased. So you got to ask that question. Did Thomas ever tell his parents he was teased? If he was teased, how long did it go on in school from first grade all the way up to senior year? Okay? Because we have some other students or people saying he wasn't teased. So that's the whole point. What did I say? Everything is about perception. What you see, I don't see. What you hear, I don't hear. I could have had a class with him and nobody teased him in that class, to my recollection, but he could have been in another class, in a math class, where he was being teased. He could have been walking out into the hallway during school sessions, bell ringing, people teasing him. Maybe just going through the hallway, but necessarily not in his class. You can't speak on what you don't know. So this guidance counselor is not working for the school system. I don't think you should have said what you said. You should have just kept it clean. To my knowledge, I don't have information that he was teased when I was his guidance counselor. That's what you should have said. Because you are in an office. So you have no bearing and understanding of what the hell goes on in a classroom, the gym, outside, the lunchroom. How the hell would you know what's going on in the cafeteria? And you're upstairs, somewhere probably near the office. You wouldn't know that. You don't know what's going on in the bathrooms, the gym, outside. Did you even know what was going on with his family? Let's talk about that. Did he ever tell you he was teased? Obviously, he didn't. How many times did you meet with him? Ding, ding, ding. You didn't mention that. The reporter should ask that. Well, how many times did you meet with him? See, I don't like all this open-ended conversation about people in general. I don't care what the subject is about. When you leave things open-ended, you leave it up for interpretation and assumptions. What the reporter should have said was, how long did you meet with him? How many times did you meet with Thomas Crooks? What was his demeanor when you met with him? What did he talk about? Did you talk about grades, school, family, home, classwork, other students, teachers? Did you talk about goals? Did you talk about what he wanted to do with his life? That's what you're supposed to be talking about. That's what people want to hear. What was he like? What was his conversations like? You said he was smart, he was intelligent. Yet you had to go look that up. Yeah, I'm saying that. Your memory got jogged. And I'm not saying that people can't forget. Because Lord knows Queen has to be very careful what she says on her own channel. The point I'm making is you can't speak about something you don't know about. And I wouldn't speak on it. I would have had a clean-cut answer. I have no knowledge that Thomas Crooks was teased. But to say he didn't get teased because he showed up to class every day, to me, that's an irresponsible comment. Because children go to school every day and they're teased. Because every child don't navigate the same. And they may have parents who know they're being teased, but their parents make them go to school anyway. So see, that's why you can't make that generalization. Oh, well, he went to school every day his senior year. He only missed class once. Okay, so what? Hell, grown people are bullied on jobs and they go to work every day. So now, imagine being a child. You don't have any provisions. You don't have a choice. You don't have provisions to say, I want to go elsewhere today. I'd like to go to another school. Some children don't have the option to jump from school to school because they are being bullied. So we don't really know what went on with Thomas Crooks in school. All we've heard is information about a rifle club, that he didn't make the rifle club. One person or two says he was bullied. Somebody else says he wasn't bullied. Somebody else says he was sitting in the cafeteria before class alone. Now we got it. He was in the cafeteria alone. They're all over the place. Because what did I say? Everybody's perception is different pertaining to an individual. Oh my goodness. Things he typed in and searched. DNC, Trump, Biden, FBI director. This leads me to believe that perhaps Thomas Crooks just wanted validation for breathing. Possibly, yes, wanted attention. Probably got old wounds from childhood, either from family, bullying in school, in awkwardness, not feeling accepted, growing up, school, parents, life. I'll show them. I didn't make the rifle club. I'll show them. Who's to say he's not holding on from something from the rifle club? As I was speaking to the guest I had on here yesterday, who was so damn combative, you don't know because you weren't there, and nor do I. I don't know his life with his parents. I don't know his life at work. I don't know his life in high school. I don't know how he's perceived even at the community college where he's going. I don't know Thomas Crooks. But what I do know, this act, yes, is substantial. And it could have been way worse than what took place in Butler, Pennsylvania last Saturday. Oh, he could have easily went ham. Because he had enough ammunition to take down quite a few people. But he did not. But when you look at the searches, if we are to believe this information coming from the FBI, he was searching different people, different things. Okay? And we're going to talk about that. CBS Pittsburgh is my next source pertaining to Thomas Crooks. Was he a depressed individual? Did he have a disorder, mental disorder? Did his parents know that he was depressed? Because we're not getting much information from them that they suspected anything about the son, didn't know what he was doing, which I find that interesting. So that led me to believe they were living different lives in the household. You have a grown 20-year-old man living in a home and the parents are not in tune to where he's going, who he's talking to. And a lot of parents aren't. Once their children become grown and they allow them to live in a house, they don't know where they're going, who they're talking to, if they're dating anybody, if they're breaking the law. They just see them, hey, mom, hey, dad. They go in their room, do their own thing, get up, take a shower, walk out the door. They're gone. Did they know that their son had mental disorders? Do they believe he was the one that did the shooting when they got information about Trump being shot and other people being shot, one killed? Did they think to themselves, uh-oh, he's gone, gun gone? I think they knew he took the gun because they said he borrowed the gun a lot to go target shooting, to go to the rifle club. So that wouldn't be a shock that the gun was missing. Just that he hadn't returned, allegedly, was the issue. So what is the issue? He didn't return, gun still gone. He's got the gun. So did he ask for permission to use the gun or not? And when they found out about the shooting, did they assume their child was a potential suspect? Those are the questions I have pertaining to the parents.
And we now know Thomas Crooks pulled up the Trump rally live on his phone just moments before opening fire. And new tonight, disturbing details confirmed by CBS News outlines an arsenal of weapons and explosives in Crooks' home and vehicle.
KDKA investigator Megan Schiller continues our team coverage, joining us live now from outside the shooter's home in Bethel Park. Megan.
Interesting.
Ken and Kim, we are learning those new details about what exactly was inside Thomas Crooks' home behind me and what did he have on him, on his body, when investigators finally did get up on that roof. An AR-15, a remote transmitter, another cell phone, even a Home Depot receipt. And then they found in his vehicle 2 explosive devices, more magazines, a tactical vest with plates, and even a drone.
Wow.
We also just learned they found a hard drive and 3 USBs. 3 sources familiar with yesterday's Secret Service and FBI briefing to members of Congress confirmed this new information. Investigators told the members of Congress they found no evidence revealing any political ideologies on Crooks' devices. But his recent internet searches included, in April 2024, he searched major depressive disorder and depressive crisis. Then on July 3rd, 3 days after the announcement of the Trump rally in Butler, PA, he searched Trump, Biden, where will Trump speak from on July 13th, and where is the Democratic National Convention? Then on the day of the attack, he searched Butler Farm photos and Allegheny Arms, a nearby gun shop in Bethel Park that confirmed cooperation with investigators to KDKA. And the FBI has conducted more than 200 interviews, including interviewing his parents as well as his sibling. Everyone interviewed who was close to this gunman said that he never expressed any political ideology and also never expressed anything about this plan. Interestingly, though, also we want to add, when it comes to his searching on his phone and on his devices, he searched Ethan Crumbley. What happened to Ethan Crumbley's parents? Crumbley, of course, was the Michigan school shooter. His parents were convicted for not stopping that shooting. We're live in Bethel Park tonight. I'm Megan Schiller, KDKA News.
This sculpture must be.
So lots of searches. So that's why I put in my title, non-target. Is it possible that he just wanted validation for doing something big, give himself notoriety? Because him searching depressive disorder, had he been told that he had a depressive disorder? Number one, did he seek counseling? Was he seeking counseling? Did he ever talk to his parents about what was going on with him mentally? Did they know that something was mentally wrong with their child? Has he been diagnosed with some type of mental disorder? Lots of questions. Searching all these other avenues leads me to believe he didn't have a target in mind. He just wanted to exact chaos. Because as I've told you before, when you watch interrogations of criminals, suspects, a lot of times they will ask the person, well, why did you do this? And some people will willingly say, if they decide to speak, I don't know why I did it. And then somebody else will watch it and say, well, they had to have known. And here it shows forethought and planning. He had at least 10 days to exact this crime. So that's enough time if you're mentally unstable or you have a vendetta against the world, people in general, a political affiliation, whatever. We hear that they haven't matched him talking to anyone about a plan to kill anyone, any ideologies of any political affiliation. So that would tell you that possibly it's not even about those things. You're just looking at the fact that he went into this arena, shot a man who's a Republican and a former president. So it must be about Donald Trump. That would be a normal assumption. But if it's true that he was searching all these other entities, that would lead me to believe his brain was all over the place. He didn't really have a target in mind. He just wanted to do something negative that would be destructive. So he saw who was coming to town? Because you see, if it's true, it wasn't just Trump he searched. He's Biden, the FBI director. That's a lot. That's more than one person. He searched the Allegheny Farms, the Butler farm grounds. He searched that place where the event took place. We also get information he hid a weapon. I played that content late in the morning. Please check out that live. It's about 4 hours long. Sorry it's so long, but I had a lot of topics and I was behind on my content from this week. So I just put them all in one live. So just watch the content at your convenience. Chop it up, best that you can. But that content led me to believe he had a lot going on in his brain. Just what I would call disheveled. Just a disheveled human being. He's all over the place. Now, he was doing things with his life. Productive. That's why it's hard to understand, why would you waste your own life to go out here and murder this man or attempt to murder this man, because you didn't end up killing a man. It wasn't Donald Trump, but you did kill someone. You injured some other people. You really injured 2 other men, bad. Their conditions have been upgraded to now stable, but they were in critical condition. Could have died as well. But I don't think he had a target. I don't. If I'm going to believe what the FBI is telling us, I think he just wanted to hurt someone. And he didn't care who it was. So people are arguing in conversations and chat boxes about, oh, he told somebody they were a Republican. He got mad at them. So what? So what? His parents were liberals. Sister's a liberal. He was a registered Republican. But it's not to say he couldn't change his mind. He probably did. I don't know. Can't speak for him. But if he was searching other people and the dates and the times that they were going to be speaking and coming to town or travel itinerary, that shows me he did not have a one person in mind as a target. Because why are you looking to see when Biden was traveling? The FBI director. So you're going from one extreme to the other. That sounds like he was just, his mindset jacked up. What do his parents know? Were they having any type of problems out of their son, behavioral wise, at the house? Did they talk to one another, the parents and their son? Did they hold conversations with one another? Did they sit down to dinner and eat together? Even though he's grown, I think the sister's a couple years older. Did he talk to his parents? Just about, daily conversations. How are you doing? Did you have a great day? What you doing this weekend? Did they all talk to each other? Because there are a lot of people who live together, live in homes that they don't have any type of rapport. Because I think a lot of people think that. See, that's why I said everybody lives different. That's why you can't say what's going on in somebody's house. So that's how you're going to get down to the bottom of who Thomas Crooks is. Somebody has to come forward and tell the truth about who he is, how he acted, how he behaved, his idealisms, how he talked, how he carried himself. So far, we haven't heard anything negative as far as him showing out, acting, getting in trouble with the law. None of that type of foolishness, anything in high school nefarious. Just that he was maybe an awkward kid. He seemed nerdy, dressed in camouflage. That's not a reason to tease a child. But that's a whole nother subject. We'll get to that here in a minute. Who is he? Who are his parents? Did they get along? Did they talk? Did they travel? Were they in tune to his life, his choices, his goals? That's the point. Why was he still living at home at the age of 20? Where did the sister live? In town, at the house, out of town? What? How did they get along? We hear that they didn't fraternize a lot with neighbors. Nothing wrong with that. One thing we've learned too, you have to be careful who you mingle with. Everybody don't have to be buddy-buddy with the neighbors to be a problem family. They're just maybe quiet people. You do have people who are more quiet. They're introvert. Nothing wrong with being an introvert. Hell, sometimes it can save you from being in a lot of drama and trouble. But as you see with this family, they're now on the forefront of being the hot topic besides their son. And I feel sorry for them because this is not a place you want to be. Ostracized because something that your son did. Because these people got to live, they got to work, they got to pay bills, they got to go outside, they got to go to the grocery store. Imagine being in their shoes. I wouldn't want to be in their shoes because this is a terrible place to be. And it's a terrible place to be, even if it wasn't a former president. He could have shot a neighbor. He could have shot somebody down the street. And when you're living in a small town of 13,000, you got to be able to go to work. You got to shop. You got to go out to eat. Everybody's looking, staring at you. Oh, that's the family of the son that shot the neighbor or shot the person across. You know what I'm saying? And small town mania can be brutal. Trust me. Because everybody knows everybody. Even if everybody's not friends, you know, you're not really friendly with everybody, but in a small town, people know of each other just from passing. Know you at the post office. Know you at the grocery store. Know you at the coffee house. And you don't have to be buddy with everybody, but people know of you just by name. Or, oh yeah, that's that family that lives on 15th Street. Where are they going to reside? Are they going to continue to stay in this house? Because they are in a hot zone right now, the family. And I did a short on them this morning. Feel free to go into YouTube Shorts and check it out. How's the family coping? What is it like living on that street? What about their friends, family? Are people calling them, supporting them, checking in on them? Because it'd be a shame your friends now turn on you or associates turn on you. You also got to think about their workplace. Where do they work? Did they go to work every day in a public sector? Can you imagine getting up, going into work, and everybody now knows your son is the one that tried to kill the former president and did murder someone, injured others? That's a lot to carry around. So what was the relationship like with Thomas Crooks and his parents? What do they know about their son that would be deemed negatively nefarious in nature? Did he ever talk about harming himself and others? Did they have a lot of political rhetoric in their homes? I've asked that question. What were their conversations like as far as political wise? Were they boisterous in their opinions? We're liberals, we're this, we're that, we believe in this. You got to be on board, blah, blah, blah. Because we don't know if they're the type of people that would beat a dead horse to where he felt forced to believe a certain way. Because at one point, he did register as a Republican. So I do find that interesting. Why would he register as a Republican if his family are liberals? But that's the point. You are entitled to do as you see fit, even if you're a minor. So when he became grown, he registered as a Republican. So when did he register? So I can't remember. But why did he register Republican? Did he change his mind at some point after that? We hear that in 2021, he registered to the Blue Act, and that's right after Biden would have been introduced as the new president. What was the rhetoric in his household? Or did they not really talk about politics in their house? But everyone knew how everyone stood. Did he date? Did he have a girlfriend? Did he like girls? Did he like guys? Did he mingle with any neighbors? Did he mingle with any friends from school, work? We also hear he's going to be going to a university in the fall. They're now saying that post put on that Sting app is being questionable, that it's in question, that it's not his account. So then you have to ask yourself, what sick person would post that pretending to be him? So is it him or is it not? So see, this is where it gets dicey. When you would get information, then they retract it. So then you sit there like you don't even know what to think, what to believe. And then we have all the commotion with Secret Service, the blame game. People believe they are responsible for everything. You're entitled to your opinion on that information. But we also get information he was checked in, and that needs to be looked into as well. Who was the person or persons that checked him in and put him on radar? Is that even the truth, that he was even put on radar coming in with the rangefinder and the detonator? Frankly, he should not have been let in, because that makes no sense to say, well, I questioned him about this, this, and this, and I told somebody else that they need to watch him. How does that make any sense? That doesn't make any sense to me. To allow somebody in and you have questions about the person. I don't really understand that. Where did he, Thomas Crooks, hide the weapon? Because it's obvious he hid the weapon somewhere. And this is why I have made commentary pertaining to the area itself being vast land, because that's what this farmland is. It's nothing but vast land. You're out in the middle of nowhere in rural Butler County. So therefore, you have to use deduction. There was not enough manpower on the ground. We have disagreements between Secret Service and local police. Local police told them they couldn't man the area, our buildings. They couldn't put up a patrol car. And then we also hear Secret Service told them the same thing. They couldn't man the buildings themselves. So then we have local police saying, well, we never got a response from Secret Service. Well, what were they supposed to say? You told them you couldn't do it. They told you they couldn't do it. So why would the Secret Service respond? What would they have to say? Oh, well, go find somebody because we can't do it either. This is a crazy conversation here. This is a crazy conversation. Both are saying the same to each other. I can't. So this is why it should have never took place. And somebody should have told Mr. Trump that. And I will firmly say that again. So that's why I said in the morning live, did they consort with him to say, police can't man the outer buildings? I don't think it's a good idea to have it there. I think it should be called off because we don't have enough people in Secret Service to man the podium, the general audience, and the perimeter we have roped off. Because you're going to see that in a lot of videos. It's roped off. You go over that little rope, and that will go toward the outbuildings. So you're talking about manning a podium, a human being, rafters behind you, and so many chairs in front of you, and then what's on the outside of the roped off. And that's just, to me, like outer space. No way Secret Service could man all of that. Because if you look at the general area in one of the videos I've shown, it is countless of people. And I don't know how many people are out there total. We're not talking about the people roped in. We're talking about the people roped in and also outside of the rope. There's no telling how many people are actually on the ground itself. Will we get a head count? Secret Service members and local police. What is going to come from the investigation pertaining to Thomas Crooks? What else will they learn about him? I'm sure it will be months in advance of, bringing forward information to the best of their ability. And I hope that all the information is truthful, because what we don't need is anything that's not factual pertaining to Thomas Crooks and who he talked to and who he dealt with. Because, I was reading a comment, somebody saying something about, oh, how do we know this is the truth? That's the truth. That's the whole point. You don't know. So you can only trust the government to tell the truth and what they found as far as data on his phone, searches, notes, journals. That's all you have. So I pray that whatever information they bring is factual. But right now it's up in arms about the Sting post, him saying that something was going to transpire on the 13th of July. They don't really know if that's his account or not. And that to me is a problem. Because what people are going to say, well, you told that. So how do I believe anything else you say pertaining to Thomas Crooks? As far as data, you know what I'm saying? Things on the computer, laptop, cell phone. We will see. That's my commentary. Yes, he worked at a nursing home in dietary. Hello, Cat. So this was 2-part live, everybody. Caleb Harris remains have been ID'd to a DNA linkage to his family. And Thomas Crooks, I believe, has some type of issues, mental issues or depression. I don't believe he had a target in mind. And also, what do his parents know pertaining to his demeanor, any type of mental problems, attitude problems, their relationship with their son, his relationship with them, his relationship with his sister, his relationship with the world. Because I do believe he had a problem with the world. And we have learned of people who have been teased or ostracized in life, they will group other people as the same. And there may be some people who were actually nice to him, but he couldn't differentiate. And a lot of people are walking around like that. They may not be blowing up shit and shooting at people, but they they don't know how to compartmentalize people. So they're angry with everyone. So it doesn't matter about the person across the street, the person at the job. They may have done nothing to him or this person, but they're mad at some people from yesteryear. See what I'm saying? So now when they look at people, they're grouping them all the same. And a lot of people act this way. They're mad at everybody. They get pissed off. They want to ram their cars into the wall to a business. And that's what you see in the world right now with the way people act, lashing out all the time, flipping and wigging out. They're mad at everybody. They're mad at everyone. They're mad at a specific person, because it usually starts with a specific person or persons. And then that specific persons becomes generalized. So they're walking around throwing daggers at anything with 2 feet, 2 arms. And I see it a lot in the world in general. And the world is social media, YouTube. It's all the same. Just a lot of angry people walking around. They're bitter. They're pissed off. They can't have their way. Things aren't going their way. They're wanting more out of life. They feel defeated. So they say, fuck it. I'm just going to lash out. And I think that's what happened here with this young man. Perhaps he was not a happy camper. He wasn't happy with himself. Perhaps he's exacting, old wounds from school, growing up, family issues. And he put together this plot to unalive a former president. And he didn't care who was there, who got in the way. Because you see, he didn't try to crawl off that building once he was detected. He heard those people down there saying, hey, there's somebody on the roof, there's somebody on the roof. They're pointing. He saw all of that. And also he could have shot that police officer who crawled up there and fell back down. He could have easily shot him. But that wasn't his target. I got my mind focused on this person right here. And I don't care about all of you running and screaming and hollering that I'm up here. I see you. I'm getting ready to shoot that guy right there. The fact that they said he was going live, that's even more crazy. So where was the phone? Because it's kind of hard to lie down on your stomach, hold a gun, and operate a phone. So was he talking in the phone, or he just had the phone out up there on the roof, showing him holding the weapon? So now we have to ask, what app shows him going live with the artillery on the roof? Hadn't heard anything more about that. Just thinking. Well, yes, Melissa, that it was a foolish place to go. And I'm going to say this, it don't matter who you are. That was just a bad idea. And I won't doubt the Secret Service told Mr. Trump, this is not a good idea. We don't have enough manpower to keep you safe. And I won't doubt he told him he didn't care. Because there are people like that. They don't care. They want what they want, when they want it, and they're not worried about their safety. That was a very bad idea. When you look at the drone footage of the general area, roped off at the time, and then what it looks like now with everything, bare, anybody could have came from any direction and made a blueprint on soil. Because it's vast land. You're not talking about an amphitheater closed in, a dome, a building. You're talking about outside. So a person could have easily made their way onto the property. That's why it didn't even matter about having those little, little metal gate things they had up. Those are TikTok gates. A 3-year-old could push those over. They don't weigh anything. So you using those to, I guess, try to get some type of structure, to get people in, to, check them through checkpoints. But the point is, it's not substantial. It doesn't mean anything. It has no value. You're on vast land. You don't have anything concrete to keep people from veering into the arena. So roping things off with tape, that's not security. And when you look at the area view, Anybody could have walked for miles just through somebody's yard and to the outbuildings. Those outbuildings are actual businesses. So common sense would tell you they have parking lots. They also have a street. If you look at the area view, there are streets that lead to the outbuildings. That's an actual business. So that means a person has access to the building that wouldn't be law enforcement. And that's something nobody is talking about either, because everybody's mind is focused on the Secret Service. If that's a public business, that means that business is owned by somebody, which would be a private owner. So that means a person has access with a key to open the door, go in the door, shut the door, and do God knows what. Okay? They would have that right. So did they sweep the inside of the buildings? Because all we keep hearing is outside. Well, if this is a private business, which is supposed to be some type of glass company or whatever, and I don't know about the other buildings, common sense would tell you anybody could have been in the buildings. You could cut a hole in the glass and put your weapon through a hole and do the same. Damn, ain't nobody thought about that? So when you talk about sweeping buildings, you mean you need to be sweeping inside as well. Because inside, a person has access that they could open a window, crack a window, cut a hole in the glass, and put a rifle or whatever through a hole, or just open and crack the window and stick a weapon out right before he would walk out. See, nobody's thinking because everybody's focus is on the Secret Service. And that's why I said, I get it. They were supposed to be watching him. But if they've had a conversation with local police, hey, we don't have enough people to man the area, then the police says, well, we don't either. There was a problem right there. They should not have went forward with the function. And frankly, Donald Trump don't orchestrate Secret Service. So therefore, Secret Service had the rank to say, we have declined to guard you at this function. And that's what they should have told him. Once they realized they couldn't get anybody to man the staging area or man those buildings, the function should have been called off. That's my personal opinion. Because Donald Trump don't have no rank. He's not a sitting president. So he had no rank. And I think anybody with sense should know that. And if these two agencies are quipping back about, I ain't got, then somebody should have went to the Trump and said, well, we've got a problem here. Local police don't want to man the building because they don't have the power. They don't have the men and women to sit out there. We don't have the manpower. We don't need to do this. Sir, you need to reconstruct another venue. So now I ask, did they ask the president if he would like to find another venue, change his mind? Was he asked and or told? Police were not manning those outbuildings. If they told the president, ex-president, what did he say and what was his response? Or did they ever say anything? Just said the hell with it. Don't know. Did they contact the director to say, police won't man the building? Since she's catching a lot of heat, Ms. Cheadle, did Secret Service lead call her to say directly, Butler Sheriff's Department don't have the manpower to man the outbuildings? If somebody called her and told her what the police said, what was her response? Will we hear the truth of everybody's responses? That's going to be the question of the hour. Who's going to tell the truth to their actual conversations, notations on each person saying they could not man the outbuildings? And as I said before, those buildings are owned by private people. So anybody could have had a vendetta against Trump or wanted attention, however you want to word it, and they could have easily went in there and cracked a window and done the damn same. So were the buildings swept on the inside? Those are my questions as well. Were the buildings swept on the inside? Because I got a feeling they weren't done on the outside. Because as I said, Secret Service couldn't be everywhere, nor could these police officers, state police officers. So I wonder if the police even asked the state police, hey, can you stand out here? Can you man these buildings outside? We hear that they were inside, but what good is it inside if you have a roof? And they also said they thought that could be a potential threat being on the roof. Now we hear that Ms. Cheetah was saying it had a slant on it. So I think what she meant by that is she couldn't see somebody putting a scope up there and trying to hold heavy artillery, you know, for the gun. But now we hear that other officers did have a scope and, you know, the tripod or whatever to hold the damn gun. And some people feel like her commentary is not conducive. And Miss Marsha Blackburn, who I believe is from Tennessee, she sure was all up in her face at that RNC, which I thought was very disrespectful because there's a time and a place for everything. She's letting everyone know she's not giving any commentary pertaining to what happened in Butler. So you all up in her face for attention for your ex video was just, you know, ridiculous and childish. And then this other guy, he's going on and on and on. Oh, we'll follow you, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, come on, you're too old for this. You all are just doing this for attention. You know, to me, it was just like likes and views up here. All that was unnecessary because in the end, you can't make her tell you what you think she should tell you. You can go on and on about why this. The one thing everybody fails to understand is she wasn't there. Yes, she's over these Secret Service people, but she can't tell you no more than what they told her. And the only thing she can go by are videos that people have forwarded to the police, you know, FBI, whomever, and she just has to go over all those videos to make an assertion of what went wrong on that fateful day. That's all she can do is watch the videos to make a determination of where everybody was. So she can't give you a statement about what went wrong because that would be premature to say what went wrong. She has acknowledged that it is their responsibility to take care of Donald Trump. She's acknowledged that. But my thing is you can't make her say who did what and where everybody was. She can't do that. She's got to talk to everybody. They got to tell her their posts, where they were, at what moment. And it would be premature for her to say, you know, well, I know that Pookie was over here and Bubba was standing over there. That wouldn't be right. Because she now has to go before a committee to speak about what went wrong in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I don't think that'd be to her best interest to speak on what happened in Butler. Because she's already had to retract statements about the buildings. 1 minute, she said people were in the building where the shooter was. And then she had to retract that statement to say the building that he was on top of, there were nobody in that building, that the officers were in another building. So it would be foolish for her to speak on the subject again. I wouldn't do it. I would wait. That's my commentary, everybody. Prayers once again to the victim. I believe his services are today, if I'm not mistaken. Let me do a little background check right quick for everybody. Thank you all. Thank you all the new visitors coming in. But that's my commentary. It's just a sad, sad situation. But one thing about it, that man was a hero. He wasn't trying to film and watch and worry about what everybody else was doing. He was trying to protect his family, and he did so. And he lost his life, that firefighter, trying to protect his family. It's a very sick situation. It's a horrible situation. Hold on 1 second. Will she be able to keep her job, Ms. Cheeto? What will happen to the other Secret Service members? I don't know. We will wait to see. But once again, this commentary was about Thomas Crooks and Caleb Harris. Caleb Harris' remains have been ID'd as a likely match to his parents. The remains that were found in that wet station. And in this commentary pertaining to Mr. Crooks, I'm asking about his mindset, if he was depressed, had any mental disorders, diagnosed with anything, was he currently seeking a counselor, and also was he on any type of medications for depression, anxieties, mental disorders. The non-target motive, I don't believe he had a target in mind. I think he was just out to find somebody he could harm that would draw a lot of attention because he searched other people, so that's what drew me to that conclusion. I could be wrong, no big deal. And also, what do his parents know? We will see. Let's see what we can find. All right, everybody, we're going to get you some information pertaining to the victim. Well, this is... Okay, right now they're having the services. Well, that was 8 hours ago. They had the live funeral. I'm trying to see if I can get some information pertaining to the funeral. Here we go, right here.
We have the latest now on the assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump, as the former firefighter who died shielding his family from the gunfire at that rally was laid to rest today. The fire truck carrying Corey Comperatore's flag-draped casket drove through town. The 50-year-old retired firefighter was the only person killed when a gunman opened fire at a Trump rally last week in Butler, Pennsylvania. The head of Butler Memorial Hospital says his team was ready to receive the wounded president as those in the waiting room watched as the scene unfolded. Doctors spoke about if the Secret Service had time to walk through the hospital or screen anybody.
They were incredibly efficient. When they arrived, they were thorough, and they took hold of the security situation very, very quickly.
Questions still remain as to how this attack happened in the first place. Sources tell CBS News Trump was allowed on stage because there was no indication the suspicious person was armed.
Today, family
Well,
and
that
friends
would make,
will say their goodbye.
well, that's awfully, he still should have made it in. That makes no sense to me. I don't really understand any of that. That's just crazy to me. I'm going to share it to my community page in case you'd like to get that information. Shared by WPRI. Firefighter who lost his life at the rally last Saturday has been laid to rest. I'm going to share that in case you need to verify any information. So now you hear from the doctor saying the Secret Service secured the hospital, because I'm sure there'd be somebody complaining about that. Well, did you secure the waiting room and blah, blah, blah? So we hear that they did secure the waiting room. You did see them when they pulled up, that they were outside the hospital, manning the entryway to the hospital. So now you have a doctor saying that the hospital area to get him in to be seen was secured. So I'm glad he spoke on that, because it would be somebody else complaining about that here in a second. So, every day it's something new, something added, something extra pertaining to this debacle. Once again, prayers to the family of this deceased victim, and also to the people who are still in the hospital. Okay. Let's see. I can't pronounce his name very well. Corey Comperatore is his name. So I'm also going to share some other information. The black guy who helped Mr. Comperatore. I'm going to share that information for those who are interested. Just giving you all the information. They also have video posted of the people going to the services. Nobody's talking through that, of course. So I'm sharing that to my community page in case you all are interested in watching that information. One second, everybody. Just doing a little research here before I check out of here. I think there's something about his friend. Let's see what this guy has to say. This was 4 hours ago.
Series had members of the community come and approach us, including one person who said he actually went to high school with.
Oh, that's days ago. I'm trying to find stuff that's recent pertaining to Thomas Crooks. So once again, funeral services have been held for Mr. Comparatori. He has been laid to rest, if you're curious about him. Just trying to bring you all the latest information. I think that's all I found so far. Latest info. Let's hear this here, and then I'll check out of here. Next week, I'll bring you commentary to Ms. Cheadle's conversations with the committee pertaining to what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. We will see what happens as far as her position, if she will continue to stay the director, the Secret Service, or if she will step down. So far, she's saying she will not step down. So will they ask for her to be removed? And also, what will happen to the Secret Service officers? I'll try to touch on that next week when I get the said information. WWL-TV News 4 is the source of this information.
President Trump. CBS News confirms the gunman's father called police before the shooting, concerned about his son and his whereabouts.
Hey,
Meg Oliver is tracking the critical half hour before Trump was shot.
Multiple sources tell CBS News that the Secret Service says it was notified of a suspicious person with a rangefinder 20 minutes before the shooting took place in Butler, Pennsylvania. A local tactical sniper inside a neighboring building spotted him from a second-floor window and snapped this picture. Crooks pulled out the rangefinder and the sniper alerted his team. Then the shooter climbed on an air conditioning unit to reach the roof of a building near the sniper's position. At 5:51 p.m., Pennsylvania State Police notified the Secret Service there was a suspicious person on the premises. 1 minute later, that was relayed to counter sniper teams above Trump. At 6 o'clock, Trump was allowed to go on stage and begin remarks. 10 minutes later, snipers were told police were addressing an issue, but it was too late. 1 minute after that, shots rang out. Former Secret Service agent Charles Marino says if agents knew there was a threat that far in advance, Trump should never have been allowed to address the crowd.
He should be held in a secure area until the threat is ultimately resolved, and then it's concluded that there's no additional other threats.
Sources tell CBS News Trump was permitted on stage because there was no indication the suspicious person had any weapons. South of the rally site in Freeport, Pennsylvania, hundreds of mourners are paying their respects to 50-year-old Corey Comparator, who died in the attack. Ryan Smith was his next-door neighbor growing up.
My sister texted me and told me that Corey was the one that was shot, and it killed me inside.
Meg Oliver, CBS News in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
All right, that's the latest information. Hello, Layman. How are you? Thanks for joining me. This is still a baffling situation of how he got in, and I just don't understand why they didn't follow him around or not allow him in altogether. I don't understand it. So basically, Secret Service is saying, well, we didn't see a threat, so we allowed him, Mr. Trump, on the stage. And excuse me if I said Trump was supposed to speak at 5. I guess it was 6, because I keep getting different information. I might have got that time mixed up. But anywho, the point is, I believe The shooter was there early before Trump spoke, casing out everything, I'm sure. Did his homework beforehand, because as you see, he searched the place, the fairgrounds, all of those things. Buying ladders, this and that. Also, he had hazardous materials months beforehand, and that would lead me to believe that he had plans to do something. Maybe he didn't know necessarily what or whom it was going to be, but it's going to be something, because Trump information wasn't announced until July 3rd. The event took place July 13th. So there's your 10-day window. He bought hazardous materials months before. Don't know the month, but they say months before. So if he bought hazardous materials months before, and I'm assuming he was using that for the bombs or whatever he's going to use it for, that wouldn't have anything to do with Donald Trump. Because how would he know that Donald Trump is going to be in Butler, Pennsylvania in July? He wouldn't know that because they only announced it July 3rd. And the fact that he's searching other people besides Trump, Biden, FBI director, that just leads me to believe he's just had a vendetta to exact harm. And that's my perception at this moment until it can be confirmed that Trump was his initial target. But it looks like to me he wanted to exact mass destruction to whomever. And he obviously was a smart person who knew how to put things together, to build explosives or whatever. So he had some type of learning. And that's what they're trying to put together. They can't find where he searched how to do these things. Well, for all we know, he bought a burner phone, could have researched things on a burner phone, alternate, account, Gmail, Yahoo, whatever, however it goes. You don't know. Because you have to know a person to really know what's going on in their head, what they have in their possession as far as separate phones, devices. For all we know, he purchased other phones. My thing is, where was the weapon? As I said, when you look at the area view of the property, that guy could have hid a AR-15 anywhere. You look at all the trees around. There are two cone-like trees right outside one of the outbuildings. He could have stuck the gun in their hole. You wouldn't even know it was in there. One of those cone-looking trees. Because I noticed that earlier before going live. I said you could stick a gun in there. You could stick a whole gun in there, and nobody would know it's in there. So let's just say he was on a wing and a prayer. Hey, let me stick this gun in this tree right here. Hope they don't sweep it, don't check. Well, let's say they didn't. Well, there's your gun sitting right in there. Now, I go over there once I've gone through the checkpoint. I get my gun out of there. I'm on and ready. I'm on and popping. That's what I'm saying. He could have hit the gun anywhere. There's a cubby hole in between one of the buildings. It's like a little square box. He could have took a rifle or his bag or whatever he transported the gun in. He could have threw it over in there a night before, 2 days before, hoping nobody find it. So a lot of what was going on, I think he went on a wing and a prayer. I hope they don't find it. Because common sense will tell you, he got checked in. Allegedly, there was some red flag. They lost sight of him, which makes no sense. But the point is, he didn't go back out past the checkpoint to go get no damn gun. Because how was he going to get back in with the gun? Whether it was assembled or disassembled. How was he going to get back in? That's because the gun was already somewhere on the property or in walking distance for him to get it. And that's even scarier. Because now you got to ask that question. Where was the weapon and what form was it in? Assembled or disassembled? Where was the weapon? That's my commentary. You all have a wonderful weekend. Stay hydrated. Stay cool. A lot of hot temperatures here in the United States. So check on somebody. The elderly, make sure that they have adequate air conditioning, fans running so they can stay cool and preserve life. I'll be back with more stimulating content. I will be uploading some shorts after this live stream. So feel free to go into the YouTube queue to check out my shorts. I will be doing some shorts pertaining to this case. Caleb Harris, Vanessa Bryant. She's giving commentary pertaining to Kobe Bryant's father passing. A lot of people are up in arms on her commentary. They feel like she shouldn't have mentioned anything about the past in her statement when he passed away. I'm going to bring you some information about Sandy, Miss Peppa. She was escorted off a Southwest airline over a dispute over a seat. She paid for 2 seats, and somebody ended up sitting in that seat, and she basically told them, she needed it for her leg. She's having some leg problems, but she wasn't wearing a brace, so they escorted her out of the airport. I'm going to do a short about that. So if I don't do a live stream pertaining to certain stories, I put it on the community page for notification, and I'll do a short about it, not necessarily a live stream. Once again, if you'd like to donate to this network, $McAndrew, 129 Cash App, stickers and chats, always welcome to the live stream. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Layman, for joining me. Our rapper from the Midwest, thank you. Please check out his content. God bless all of you. Have a wonderful weekend. And you have been listening to The Vault XL.